So the initial discussion came to me, my director and my producers, they were very clear that they do not see Border 2 without that song. If a director is coming to me, if he's clear about why is he coming to me with a particular situation, like I have a lot of people who will reach out to me and say, Mithun, मुझे लगता है कि ये जो दो situations है, I would want a Mithun song on these two situations. That creativity can come from anywhere, and if it holds you, if it chooses you, then your bloodline doesn't matter. Good music will eventually find its way. I never, if my director doesn't feel for a particular song, it could be the greatest song I've composed. If it doesn't touch him in that room in my studio, I never ask for a second listening also. There is a technical parameter, then there is a creative parameter, and then there's a cinematic parameter, the way I cast my singers. When something so powerful comes out, sir, you cannot run away from it. You have to embrace it. As a 12-year-old, I wasn't really relating to Madan Mohan Saab at that point of time. But it's created a sense of melody in me, created a sense of discipline in me. Even the most least performing song you will see will have 50,000, 20,000, 10,000 streams a month. But I feel that even if one person in the world is listening to your song every day, then make music for that one person. What's the problem?
Mrithu towels from Ramraj, premium cotton and bamboo towels. Super soft, super absorbent.
Let's go holidays. Travel beyond boundaries.
உங்கள் தங்க நகையை விற்று உடனடி பணம் பெற Max Gold. Call 04445454545.
Hello Mithoon, welcome to Galatta Plus.
Thank you, Mr. Baradwaj. It's been great.
Yeah, so I've been following your work since Anwar, and it's been a long time, and it's just so great to see you have this big hit in Border 2.
Ji.
But my first question to you, before we start talking about Border 2 and specifically the songs, is right from the beginning, that is from Onish's film,
Ji.
you have been part of many projects which have multiple composers.
Right.
Now, traditionally what has happened in, let's stick to Hindi film music, right?
Ji.
So, we've always had like Naushad, Shankar Jaikishan, or maybe duos, but if Shankar Jaikishan, even though there were two people, all these songs would be composed by Shankar Jaikishan. So, the album would be composer Shankar Jaikishan.
Ji.
And then you had, of course, all the other people. But this trend of having multiple composers for one song probably became very
soundtrack.
For one soundtrack, for one album, which probably began with the, at least the Bhatt production house had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
How comfortable are you with it? As a composer, is there something inside you that makes you say, I want to own this album? It's not just enough if I give one song or two songs that are good, but I want to own the soundtrack. Is that ego in a good way? Do you have that?
So, Mr. Baradwaj, I started my career with the Bhatts, with Vishesh Films. My first film, Zahir, was a shared soundtrack with them. And some of my so-called most impactful works have come on shared soundtracks.
Right.
Be it Zahir, be it Anwar. You spoke about Anwar. Murder 2. Ashiki 2.
Yeah.
Recently, Kabir Singh. So, primarily as a composer, I do not have an issue with it.
Okay.
I understand the concept. What I feel is that if a director is coming to me, if he's clear about why is he coming to me with a particular situation, like I have a lot of people who will reach out to me and say, Mithun, मुझे लगता है कि ये जो दो situations है, I would want a Mithun song on these two situations. So that kind of situation gives me clarity that why they want to work with me for these two situations. And I am okay in that kind of a scenario.
Right.
At the same time, there are certain filmmakers, like I did Shamshira with Karan Malhotra and Yash Raj. And Karan was very clear that he wants to work with one composer for the entire soundtrack. And I did not say no to that either.
Yeah.
I did Gadar 2 as well, which was a full album. The Train, in my initial days, was a full album. Yeah. So, I feel if the director's vision is clear, I obviously do not like it. I don't think it's very creatively conducive in an environment where there is a random song selection happening. But if I feel if a director wants to work with me on a specific thought, on a specific situation in the story where he feels that he wants my kind of music, then I am open to that.
Can you give an example of that?
That example would be, for example, when I did Dhun from Sayara,
Ah.
which was again a shared soundtrack, again a chartbuster album last year. An example in that would be was my song Dhun is where actually Mohit has introduced uh, Ahan Pandey on the screen.
Right.
And if you see the film also, he looks to be a very frivolous person or a very temperamental man. He's just fought with his band before going on stage and he's beaten up his own friends and he looks to be a very troubled man. But Mohit wanted that the minute he goes on stage, people see another side to him. They see a certain amount of ठहराव, they see a certain amount of maturity, a certain amount of silence,
Right.
and he attaches all these three words to my music: ठहराव, maturity, silence, and that's why he said, "I want a Mithoon song to launch Krish Kapoor in my film." So that's a very beautiful conversation, and in this kind of a situation, I'm pretty happy doing that.
And thank you for explaining it very beautifully because
Ji.
so do you think that some directors or some films, the way they approach music is, I have this song that needs this kind of a tonality,
Ji.
this song that needs this kind of a tonality, and all of that.
Ji.
But again, I'm just trying to understand this
Of course,
phenomenon,
please
right?
take your time.
Because again, let's take like an average R.D. Burman soundtrack, right? You'd have happy song, sad song, disco song, something song, very experimental, funky song,
Yeah.
but all like composed by the same person,
Right.
which you are also capable of because we've seen your like the albums
Ji.
that are completely by Mithoon, right?
Ji.
So when the composer is able to see this ठहराव, this silence, these qualities in your music,
Ji.
why can't you tell them like do you want to listen to this kind of sound that I also have? It's not just
Right.
this, because for me it sounds like they're putting you in a box and saying this is the Mithoon sound and this is what I want. I'm not insulting you, right? I'm just trying to understand this phenomenon.
In fact, I feel flattered to hear that because I think to even have the Mithoon sound in today's time when so much of information is available, I think that's a compliment.
Yeah.
So I think it comes down to the vision, Mr. Baradwaj. I feel that the director's vision, because as a person, I would not want to tell this
To the
director. Even when I'm working on a song, I never, if my director doesn't feel for a particular song, it could be the greatest song I've composed. If it doesn't touch him in that room in my studio, I never ask for a second listening also.
right.
Because I feel that music should inspire us, So if my director, like a lot of people have come to me saying, when Anil Sharma ji came to me for Gadar 2, he was like कि नहीं आप जो बोल रहे हो कि मैंने लक्ष्मीकांत प्यारेलाल साहब के साथ काम किया है, तो मेरी स्कूलिंग वही है कि मैं एक ही संगीतकार के साथ काम करता हूँ, आप मुझे समय दे सकते हैं तो आप बोलिए. So if you can give me time, then I will do all the 5 songs with you. So when the director has a vision, I'm very much open. But as a person, I don't think I'm naturally not that intrusive. I would say also why not?
Yeah.
I get your question that why don't I put my foot down as an artist?
Yeah.
But I think as a person, I'm not that person.
Right.
There are a lot of films I have said no. कि मुझे ये 2 गाने नहीं करने or I don't want to do this one song. But then the reasons are different. It's not about the number of songs.
Right. Do you think that today to coexist in this industry as a musician, it's important to have this flexibility that if I get the whole album, I will do that. If I get 1 or 2 songs and I feel connected to that situation, then I will do that also. Is that flexibility?
I don't think it's got to do with existence, sir. I think it's more to do with what inspires me as an artist. I remember I was in college and I was hearing the soundtrack of Dead Man Walking. They put together an entire album for that. And that album had a song by the great Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan Sahab. There was a song by Eddie Vedder.
Yeah.
There was a collab between...
That's a great way to explain this. Yeah.
There was a collab between the two. I think they had Bruce Springsteen's song as well. And there were so many different interpretations on the same story. That was such a big story in terms of Sean Penn and Susan Sarandon, in terms of a message.
Yeah.
And then there were various... They had a Sufi song. They had a light classical song. They had a country song. all conveying the same emotion in different interpretations.
Okay.
And that really excited me at that point of time, and I was hearing it back on my Discman back then. So maybe that's where I felt this open interpretation. Let's see if multiple artists work on one album. How do they interpret the situations in their own different ways?
Yeah.
So I've always seen it through a positive lens.
Yeah.
And
I was also asking it in a very positive
Fair
way,
enough.
just to understand this thing.
Yeah.
Because when I grew up, it was all like the composers owned an album.
Ji.
That's that's how it came about. So
Right.
that but you explained it really well. So we'll come to Border too, right? So they come to you and say this extraordinarily iconic song. Let's take you've done multiple songs. There is like Sande Se Aate Hain, To Chalu, all that. But let's stick to Sande Se Aate Hain, which is now called Ghar Kab Aoge.
Ji.
So you take that song.
Ji.
Obviously, they want you to do it because it is associated with the first film. So
Yeah.
it has to reappear in some form because that song is so strongly identified with Border 2, the
Yes.
first Border.
Yes.
So what was the initial discussion like? Like you have that song, you don't want to replicate that song, you want to interpret that song. So what was the initial discussion like?
So the initial discussion came to me, my director and my producers. They were very clear that they do not see Border 2 without that song.
Yeah.
That wasn't a decision that I as a composer took. I want to reinterpret this song.
Right.
They had that vision that Sande Se Aate Hai, created by Annu Malik ji and Javed Akhtar Saab, is the soul of Border.
Yeah.
And they asked me if I would be open to the interpretation. And I had a session with the director, and I understood that the way they intend to portray the stories of our soldiers in Border 2, that song should be there. It creatively makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So that was my first step of getting convinced, because I am per se not someone who believes in recreations directly, unless if it's cinematically justified. Standalone recreations are not something that excites me as a composer. I mean,
Right.
I'm known for my originals. So that's something that I had to be convinced of. And once I was completely committed to the idea. And even before I started work, I first needed the nod of Annu Malik ji, because I feel that even though the producers, Mr. Bhushan Kumar, had taken the rights for the song, I feel the moral right always lies with the composer. And I spoke to him, and only when he was convinced of the idea and he said, "Ki nahi, Mithun, you please do this, I'm open to it," is when I got to the creative part of the song, understanding the characters. Border 1 had different characters. It was based on the Battle of Longewala. This film is based on the Battle of Basandar, and the various other fronts where the battle was fought, and different characters. So we had to understand their backstories, we had to understand their dilemma, and bring out that element in the poetry, which was again redone by Manoj Muntashir. And then I had to bring in, we have these 4 characters: Sunny Sir, Varun Dhawan, Diljit, and Ahan.
Khan, yeah.
And I felt, let's give a voice to each one of them.
Okay.
And I discussed with my producers and directors, and they were very supportive of that. And obviously, Sonu Nigam sir, I feel that generally whenever I do a recreation, even when I did Urja Kale Kawa for Gadar 2, it's natural that you retain the original voice, because I feel they were a part of the song's genesis. You can't really imagine these songs without their voice. And Udit ji is thank God, he's hale hearty, he's performing. Sonu sir is very, very active today, and I think he was the anchor for me. So he's the first voice which I recorded, so that we understand ki gaane ki atma, the soul of the song is now this, because Sonu Nigam owns Sande Se Aate Hai. Obviously, Rup Kumar Rathod, also we have retained his voice as well. And then I added in Arijit's stanza, Vishal Mishra, Diljit has sung his own part, just to give that additional layer from a screen point of view, from a story point of view, because these were new characters and they had a different backstory.
Right.
And then I put together the entire song. I mean, the film is still a period film. It's got a sound. 1971 is the backdrop. I wanted to keep the acoustic intent of the song intact.
Right.
and I used very minimalistic programming. The song is completely recorded live at Yashal Studios, and I brought in all our musicians from the fraternity. A lot of the people who were part of the first song have played my version as well. And the intention was to keep it as organic and as pure as the song is.
Right. So how do you pick the singers? So, Sonu Nigam, you said, was because you wanted a continuity from the
Yeah,
to
I
represent the-
feel that song cannot be recorded without Sonu ji.
Agree. But so when it comes to the newer voices, how do you pick those voices?
So that remains the same, sir. What happens is, the way I work is, there is a technical parameter, then there is a creative parameter, and then there's a cinematic parameter. The way I cast my singers. When I say technical parameter, I would say every singer has a range. They have a best sounding range as well. As a composer, where would I want to use this singer? You know, some singers have a very wide range. They could do like a kharaj, they could do like a great mid-tone, and they could do like a high octave as well. Some singers sound great in a particular domain. So I check where is the song, what is the range of the song, and in this range, which singer would shine the most. Right? I am not very fond of using the female voices in a very high register. I personally like using the female tone in a low mid tone. That's my personal choice. You spoke about Shilpa, the way I have used her in Tose Naina Lage.
Yeah.
That's my personal choice of how I like to use a female voice. Then there is a cinematic parameter. Ki if it's a lip sync, who is the actor who's going to lip sync it? I think those things also do matter when it comes to Hindi films, as we're talking about.
Right.
People are fond of seeing an actor with a particular voice. That's always worked. I like to hold on to that principle even today. And then there is a creative factor in terms of tonality, in terms of the maybe the upbringing of the singer, कि वो कौन से state में बड़े हुए हैं. You know, there could be a song which needs a slightly pahadi feel, and maybe I would want a Mohit Chauhan, maybe I would want a Jubin Nautiyal. Or if a song needs a slight, it may be a light classical song, but it needs the finesse that comes from classical gaiki, you know. And then maybe I need somebody of the stature of Hariji for the ease with which he just flows in his harkats. So I think these 3-4 parameters come together is how I decide a voice for a song.
Okay. So you decide the songs.
Ji.
So what do? You record the voices first?
I put down a track. I'm a pianist myself, so my idea is always instinctive. So I'll probably play a riff, I'll probably play a basic progression, or just play the rag in which the song is based. And once I have that piano track laid, is then when I get the voices in, and then I move towards production.
So the first, you kind of do a general map kind of thing for the
piano.
A melodic map
Ji.
on the piano.
Yeah.
And then you go to the singers,
Yeah.
get them recorded using this as a guideline or as a base. Now, for Sandeh Se Aate Hain,
Ji.
what were the instruments that Anu Malik used, and how did you, I'm not asking for each listing, but generically speaking, what were the predominant instruments that Anu Malik used, and when it came to your version, how did you see that, and how did you change that?
So I honestly, sir, I didn't want to change the instrumentation too much. There are certain instruments that I've actually retained, re-recorded though. Like the mandolin is a very important part of Sandeh Se Aate Hain, part 1 and part 2 as well. And I've added the sarangi. I've added the flute, obviously played by Rakesh Chaurasia. Those are additions which I made. But I wanted to keep the instrumentation in the same family as Anunji had envisioned the original song. What I probably added was a little more improvisation in the progressions.
Okay.
So if you listen to my version of it, you will hear a lot more added progressions which are going on with the same melody.
Chord progressions. Okay.
So those progressions, I'm personally fond of adding a little color in my songs. I like those additional overtones, and I've kept that even in Sandeh Se, in the way I've just designed the harmony. But the instrumentation, the tabla, the dholak, the duffs is something that I think Anuji envisioned the song that way, and I wanted to retain all of those things.
Right. So the question also then arises, can't the same song, I mean, did you ask the director, like, why not use the same song? Like, why do you need me to reinterpret the song?
You mean re-record it, or you mean use the same sound recording?
Yeah.
So I feel that technically, sir, things have really changed.
Right. That's per se.
Right. So the soundscape that we have today in the theater with Atmos, right? That would be a little unfair to the song. Also.
Yeah.
It would be unfair to the song,
Yeah.
especially if you're having original, because I have originals as well, and my song "Mitti Ke Bete" is really being received very, very well as an original. So you can't have two different sound like recordings.
The
you know
sound,
that
obviously,
would not gel sonically. It would not fit in, and I feel, I mean, why they came to me is something that we'll ask them. But the idea was to just, I have a lot of respect for the history of, of my fraternity. I mean, the names that you have taken of Panchamda, Lakshmikant Pyare ji, Pyare ji is my guru, he's my Taya ji, he's my guru. So I think that they wanted to work with somebody who has that reverence for Hindi cinema music or Indian cinema music. And I hope that can be heard in my interpretation as well.
So we spoke about, before we go on, what are your favorite, because you spoke about Lakshmikant Pyarelal and you're related.
Ji.
What are some of your favorite Lakshmikant Pyarelal songs?
I would say हंसता हुआ नूरानी चेहरा,
Okay.
वो जब याद आए बहुत याद आए, ये जो चिलमन है,
हाँ.
मैं शायर तो नहीं, लंबी जुदाई, सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम टाइटल सॉन्ग, एक प्यार का नगमा है, चोली के पीछे क्या है. I could go on. I mean,
Yeah.
your body-
I really love the way they used Lata Mangeshkar in Ek Tujhe Ke Liye.
right.
16 baras ki bali umar
Ji.
ko salam.
Ji.
The way they start right
Yes,
to the,
yes,
so it's beautiful. It's like a very interesting way of melodic composition they
I
had.
think they really experimented. They're one of the most experimental composers. I mean, of course, we all revere Panchamda also as a very experimental musician. But I think that this aspect of Lakshmikant Pyarelal also should be spoken more of. While they held the flag of conventional Indian cinema music, I think they really experimented also a lot.
Right. What is their most experimental soundtrack for you?
I think Jal Bin Machali, Netra Bin Bijli.
Shantaram's film?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I think some of the stuff that they did on the soundtrack was phenomenal.
Was this song from there, Taron Se Saj Ke?
The ones which strike me right now is the title song, and the one, my personal favorite is Sadhre.
Okay.
Sur ko Sadhre.
Yeah. That's a very unusual song.
Pandit Rajan Mishra, Sajan Mishra.
Yeah. So, what is your most experimental song? Like, if this is Mithoon, like in most of his soundtracks,
Ji.
or which is what people come to you for,
Right.
what is the...
I think I was really happy about the way the music of Shamsheras turned out with Karan Malhotra. Obviously, the film and the music didn't do that well, but I really enjoyed working on that soundtrack, and especially when the first song that I recorded was a song called Ji Huzur, which was Ranbir Kapoor's launch on screen in that sense. And Karan, my director, really inspired me because I really believe a lot in keeping music understated. My silences speak a lot. But he wanted me to come out of my comfort zone in that song. He wanted me to be a brash, loud character. And that's why my first line itself is Thoko Salam Thoko. That's not something that I would really express myself ever as. But I think to do that, and irrespective of the outcome, it was a very fulfilling experience for me to try something different and work in a very organic way.
Do you think that when music is launched, there's a certain buzz around it, but let's say the movie associated with it does not do well, does the buzz kind of die down and sometimes the music kind of goes away with it?
That happens. I mean, it's pretty natural, sir. I feel that because as a nation, we are a cinema-obsessed nation, and that brings a lot of conversation to the soundtrack as well. I mean, it's got its share of merits also, that because of the film, people explore the music also a lot more. And these things do happen, but I think they're just part of the larger picture. And I feel that a song eventually does find its path. There are a lot of my song Maula Mere Maula. The film didn't ring a bell with the audiences, but that song is still spoken of
Yeah,
till today.
yeah,
A lot of my films have been that way, and I think that good music will eventually find its way.
It lasts, right? It's sometimes
course.
it could be something like a TV show where people are singing or something like that. They pick up the song and it comes back
It
into
just comes
circulation.
back, yeah.
Yeah,
It could
you
take
know,
its time.
yeah.
And I feel that, sir, even if there's one person in the world, today we have the data available, and even the most least performing song you will see will have 50,000, 20,000, 10,000 streams a month. But I feel that even if one person in the world is listening to your song every day, then make music for that one person. What's the problem?
Yeah, yeah. What when you we spoke about voices, and one of the voices most associated with you is Arijit, because the first song that he sang,
Yeah.
Murder 2,
Yeah.
in Hindi cinema
That's true.
was your song, right?
Ji.
So when you look at a singer like him, and he has everything that you mentioned, he has the range, he can do the classical stuff, he can do the pop stuff, he can
Ji.
do a rock star stuff and all that. Why don't we have again a past versus present comparison? Because I'm interested in knowing what a musician thinks about that. There was a time when the average Hindi film soundtrack would have Rafi Kishore, Lata, Asha. Pretty much like when the title cards come on and you see the movie's title cards, most of them, maybe some songs would have a Manna Day, maybe some films, if they needed a slightly classical sounding song, they'd go to a Manna Day.
Yeah.
I'm generalizing, of course,
Fair
but
enough, fair
but then or certain other singers would come, but they pretty much identified a few singers that could do pretty much everything, and then said, we are going to work with this bunch of people forever.
Ji.
Now it's much more democratic, and it's a good thing, because now you have a lot more variety, like coming in.
Ji.
But there is still the feeling that the craze for Arijit is something that's different from that's everything around him. What do you attribute this to?
I think his craft, his skill, and his ability to emote and connect with the listener.
Right.
I think he's one of the most organically grown artists in the country.
In the sense?
I mean, he did his first song with me and him go back to 2006, if I'm not wrong. And I always strongly believed in him, even before all the hype came. And I've always fought for him against the so-called forces. But the way, when I say, I mean, people who felt that maybe Ashiki 2 should not have a new voice and should have a more relatable or a more familiar voice, from there to him becoming the dependable factor is a very organic journey that he has earned on his merit.
Right. So that's why you say it's organic, like this one. So now, when you are, like you yourself said, you're known for the minimalistic nature, the silences.
Ji.
You try not to crowd your compositions, right? Yeah. So you play the basic tune on a piano, rather the soundscape.
Ji.
You record on top of it. Tell me how you go about just like you cast your singers, how do you cast your instruments? How do you, is that an instinctive process saying, okay, I think this song needs a guitar, or this song, how does that happen?
I think, sir, it doesn't happen on paper. When for me, music is a very physical expression. And that's why we have velocities on the piano, because it's very responsive to your physical expression in that sense. So when I am playing a song, before an instrument, it's a feeling. For me, when I'm creating my interludes, the feeling always supersedes everything else. So when I was doing, for example...
Yeah, take a song. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, for example.
You have a song you'd like to ask?
No. Javeda Zindagi hai.
Javeda Zindagi. So if you see Javeda Zindagi...
Or let's talk about Border, Mitti Ke Bete.
If you talk about Mitti Ke Bete, so the first interlude is a low flute, right? And there is the chorus line of the song, wo mitti ke bete jo wapas na laute. Then there is the vocal riff, the same melody. It goes into an onkar, same melody. And then the same melody again with the flute. So one of my team members, he even pointed out and he told me that, it's the all the three are the same melodies, and do you want to keep it like that? And I said ki I'm feeling it, and if I'm feeling it, I want to keep it that way only. So it could be any other instrument also, but before it's an instrument, for example, in Tumhiyo, the first interlude is the melodica. Now, after you finish the chorus line of Tumhiyo, Zindagi ab tum hi ho, the feeling was for me to kind of just flourish, because the chorus line is not very open. It's a mid-range chorus line, right? It doesn't end on a very statemental note. Zindagi ab tum hi comes back to sa, and you just leave the note there. And then I wanted the feeling of a little bit of a flourish, and that's when from that same sa, that very naturally. So there's a feeling of like probably a dam opening up. And then I see that if I want this feeling, now what notes? And then the ra ra re ra 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 da ra 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 da ra da ra da ra da ra ra ra. So then the notes, and then this sounds like a legato in my head to me. This is how I'm thinking to myself. It obviously can't be staccato. It will just kill the flow of it. If it's legato, it could be a string section, it could be a beautiful chamber orchestra, but then I haven't used that many violins in the song. So from what's my context of emotion? I need that individuality, that loneliness of one man. I could do a solo violin, but then it could get too melancholic, which I don't want it to be. And I travel here and there, and I reach a melodica which has dynamic value, which has a slightly brighter tone. The melodica doesn't sound very dull. It's got a little bit of color to it, as from the family of the reeds. And it justifies my phrase, most importantly. Okay, let's do this.
Okay. So it's that feeling, the job then is to find the right instrument for that feeling that you have.
The right notes for the feeling, and then the right instrument for the notes.
Okay. So it's a two-way process.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So what's that, the most unusual instrument that you've used?
I think I used a didgeridoo in Bolo Har 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 from Shivai, the title track of Shivai, which is again one of my most uncharacteristic Mithoon songs. And again, it's the film did reasonably well as an average fare, I think. But that song, it plays a lot, especially in television shows. So I think I used a didgeridoo and a bass flute to open that song. And there's this siren kind of sound that I put in the intro, which I used in the BGM also. So yeah, I think that one.
You say that people come to you for a certain kind of, what is in your mind, if you were to go to like with a portfolio and say, this is the soundtrack that defines me in my opinion. Of course, again, there's many, but if you were to choose one, which one would that be? The whole soundtrack.
Which defines me as?
A composer.
As a composer.
Where did you get to exhibit the biggest range?
I think range point of view, we had a lot of genres in Shamshera. But one of my personal favorite albums is The Train. It's a full album, and the time at which it came in my life, I was 21 back then, and it was very raw. But yet I was courageous enough to put myself out there, sing a couple of songs myself, and people give me a lot of love for that as well. And to take the mantle of doing an Imran Hashmi film back then, it meant a lot to me as a young composer. And just to do that film and to be a part of that process back then, it meant a lot to me.
Right. So when you're 20, so at what age did you know that this is your profession?
16.
16. What happened that made you say this is, like, what was the click that happened?
It was just, my dad used to make me sit down as a teenager when I was 14, 15. He would play me the works of the great Madan Mohan Saab, Lakshmikant Pehlal, obviously, the great Salil Chaudhary, Naushad Saab. And he would keep telling me ki, ye film dekho, ye situation dekho, inhone kaise socha. And then my dad has worked very closely with Lakshmi ji and Pyare ji as a conductor. So he had a lot of insights which people would not have access to. But what Raj Kapoor Saab said, how Lakshmi ji reacted to that, how Pyare ji heard a line and created a contra melody and lifted it up, as if it's like magic, and how Raj Kapoor Saab loved the genre of waltz, and that was Shankar Jaikishan's influence on him, and how he carried forward the legacy when Lakshmi Pyare did waltz in their own way when they did Main Shayar Tu Nahi.
Yeah.
So to hear all these things was so fascinating for me. It was like, this is not a profession, this is a magic land. And I just want to be a part of this. And I didn't even imagine getting paid to go and experience all this. I would pay to be a part of this. And that's what I feel even today.
So at 16, it was kind of your father who pushed you a bit into this.
I think he pushed me, no? I think he tempted me that if you have the courage, if you have the perseverance, then this entire magic can be part of your life as well. But you will have to earn your entry into it.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you this question, which is a little odd, but do you think that creativity is something that, what they say, runs in the blood?
Right.
Or can a person with like a blank slate completely come and learn things?
I completely believe in the second.
Second?
I completely believe. I don't think. I mean, it's so difficult, sir, to define creativity in that sense. But my grandfather, Pandit Ram Prasad Sharma, he's been a music teacher. He's taught a lot of musicians in the fraternity, especially in the acoustic era, including Pyare ji himself. I have heard stories of him. He would go to get maybe his two-wheeler repaired at a puncture store, and he would ask that guy. He would see a young boy, struggling over there, and he would tell him, "How much do you make a year?" And that guy would say, "I make like $2 a day." And he would say, "Why don't you learn music?" And he would like, "Sir, no one will teach me." He says, "Come, I'll teach you." And he's made legends out of these people. So this is what the fraternity says today, long before I was born. So I feel that that creativity can come from anywhere. And if it holds you, if it chooses you, then your bloodline doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, when I say blood, it also, like sometimes when we're surrounded by something, right?
You're influenced
You're
by it.
influenced by it because it's your uncles are singing, your dad's a conductor,
Yeah.
you're something. So it kind of runs in the family, right? So it's a bit of a family profession.
I would put it this way, so I got the benefit of all these stalwarts around me. So I was influenced, I was taught by them, I was inspired by them. But then there are a lot of members of my family who never took up music, being in the same environment. So difficult to say, but I was definitely blessed.
I know you adapt to the genre of each film and each song that is asked of you, but if you were to define some, like when you defined yourself earlier with the Terav and all those things, but to make it a little broader.
Mohit Suri defined me that way. I choose not to define myself.
Right. So, okay. So what is it? How would you define yourself? If I were to ask Mithun, what is your genre of music? What would it be?
Conversation.
Okay.
I would like to choose that word.
Right.
I'm definitely not a purist because as a Hindi film composer, we delve into multiple genres. We don't stay true to our ragas. बहुत सारी क्या कहते हैं ना कि उसमें अनुशासन को हम लोग तोड़ते हैं. Right?
Lots of anuswars and all that.
हाँ जी, but then we are just being true to a feeling at that point of time.
Yeah.
And so I'm definitely not a purist. I can't claim right on any strict genre as well because music is such a powerful science कि अगर आप व्यवस्था की बात करते हो, if you talk about the rules, then please be specific about it. So I would never even claim to say that this song is a jazz song. It's very important for people to understand what is jazz first before making a comment like this.
Right.
Or you say that this song is based on Bhageshri. Please understand the chalat of it before making that comment. Right? It may sound like Bhageshri, but is it that? Please ask the masters. Have that reverence for this craft. So I would not make that claim, sir. But conversation, yes, that's something that's I'm very honest about my music. And I never make music to impress. I make music to express.
Okay. So when you say conversation,
जी.
conversation with the screen and the images on screen and the characters, that's what you're talking about?
नहीं.
Ah,
That is an extension of my music.
okay.
Before I make music for the screen, I make it for myself.
Okay.
I make it to give voice to what I'm feeling on a particular day.
Okay. So it's a conversation with your soul kind of a thing?
With myself, it could be a conversation with a friend with whom I've lost touch and I don't have his number anymore, and I would just maybe pen down what I want to talk to him today. It could be with somebody I lost in my life, and what would I want to. There is a line in Mitti Ke Bete which says कि तेरे बिन सरहद से हम भी आधे अधूरे लौटेंगे, तेरी चिता में धीरे से कुछ अपना भी जल जाएगा. Something of me will burn on the pyre along with you. And when I lost somebody in my life, and I was there at the moment when we were handing over everything to the pyre. So that's a conversation maybe I never had that time. But today when Manoj ji wrote that for my song, I just felt it's finally some closure to that chapter of my life.
So these are, even though they're made for professional reasons, they're also extremely personal to you.
They should be, sir.
Every song.
Almost every, yeah.
Has there been a song where they just said, okay, make me a song that's in this zone?
But even it's in that zone, sir, it ultimately has to come from within me only.
Right.
It's not something that I could pick up from here and say, okay, you want something like this, take it. It's not external to me, na? It's internal to me. Any genuine composer, he's given a brief, he's been told multiple things which are external to him.
Right.
But ultimately, when he sits on his instrument or on whatever he's comfortable with, it's something that's within, right, which comes out. तो वो कितना भी बाहर का influence हो, it will come with some layer of him, right?
Well,
or her.
Right. Now, I don't know if I can ask you this question because...
Please go ahead.
But I don't want you to... can you give me an example of a song where a director said, I want a song like this because it's trending or because that song is whatever it is or whatever. And then the way you converted it to your style. Can you name something or...
So, for example, the Ji Huzur song from Shamshera, the one which I was talking about, it's a fun song, right? It's got a certain amount of arrogance to it. There's a certain amount of craziness to it. But if you listen to the outro, the Rekhap changes from the Shuddh Re to the Komal Re. And it goes into the Shamshera theme which I had written, which was a basic... it has a certain intensity to it because it's a story of a father's redemption by the son. So suddenly from the song, it just goes into that dara-dara, 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 dara-dara. And I remember when my director was sitting and Ranbir heard the song for the first time at the studio, the first thing he noticed was this melody in the end. And he was like, why does this end with so much of intensity? And then the director and me explained to him that the end of the song has a certain montage sequence, which when the mentor for Ranbir, amongst all the craziness, he sees the resemblance of his father in him, right? So that came from me. So with all the fun, with all the madness, there was a hint of intensity. And Ranbir told me also, the entire song is so surprising, but this last portion is completely Mithoon.
Right.
So, if that...
But were you given a reference for that song? Like, I want a song like this. Because some directors, they don't know music. They don't know how to talk music, but they know music. As in, they know what they want, but they may not be able to tell you, like, give me this kind of rag or whatever it is.
They shouldn't know that. That's our job.
I mean, some people do know.
Some do. Exactly.
Because
but what I mean is that if people don't, we cannot hold it against them.
Yeah. So has there been somebody who, like give me the name of a song that was given to you as a reference? Like, I want a song like this.
I'm just trying to recall an authentic answer to your question. Because of late, especially in the last 5-10 years, they are my songs which come back to me as references.
Right.
So initially, but like my director Manish Jha, with whom I did Anwar, he played me a lot of music of Talvin Singh and Sushila Raman back then
Yeah.
when I created the soundtrack of Anwar.
Okay.
So that entire world influence and exploring with those soundscapes probably came from my influence of listening to them.
Right. At what point did you start listening to? You mentioned jazz earlier.
Ji.
At what point did that come to you through LP's music or some other music, R.D. Burman or whatever it is, or were you listening to like jazz from outside, like Western jazz?
So I was listening to a lot of Western jazz, and I was introduced again by my guru, Mr. Tony Pinto, who's been a veteran musician in the fraternity for a very long time. And he introduced me to Oscar Peterson, Chick Corea, Miles Davis, Herbie Hancock. And that's when I spent a lot of time listening to greats like Misty, Autumn Leaves,
Right.
and all these progressions and the 12-hour jazz sequence. That's where I learned the rules, and I understood that it's so intricate and it's so delicate. You have to be very careful.
So when, let's say, a composer uses a swing kind of rhythm in a song, can it be called a jazz song?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really.
So supposing you want to say this, you would say this is a Hindi film song?
100%.
Because
or
see,
an
the thing is,
Indian-
like you said,
Ji.
all our songs are
Correct.
like bastard children of various genres.
I would
right?
not use that word.
No, I mean, like, in the sense of, but
Amalgamation of genres.
Amalgamation of genres. Yeah, you're a more polite person, right? But I'm saying this with real passion, because when we one of the things I like about Indian music is that film music is that there are no rules.
Yes.
You create your own rules, right? And whereas for the lack of a better word, with purer forms of music, there are very strict rules, where
100%.
you have to kind of play within
100%.
a certain kind of playground. So when would you call, is it possible at all to make a Hindi film song that is a jazz song?
Of course it's possible.
Okay.
Why not?
Okay.
You could collaborate with the authentic jazz artist
Okay.
and somebody who has complete knowledge of the principles of jazz and the expression of jazz. And if he creates a song, why not?
Okay. So I'm not talking about jazz elements in a song.
No, I'm not.
A jazz song.
Jazz elements is something that maybe film composers can do as well.
Right.
But I'm talking, that's why I said, of hiring a jazz musician who is well versed with the structures of jazz, the progressions of jazz, the routing of jazz, the expression of jazz.
Right. So has there been a song in Hindi cinema like that?
I'm sure there must have been. I can't recollect. But I could give you another example of another genre when Ustad Sultan Khan Saab sung for Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam for Ismail Darbar. I think he did Albela Sajan, which was purely Ahir Bhairav. So this is one example that comes to my mind. I'm not completely sure of the production though. But that's what I said, because Ustad Saab was there, he brought that legacy and that purity with him.
Right.
And that Anushasan with him, because of which I think that could have happened. But Ismail sir would be better the person to comment on this.
Right. So I think the genre of Hindustani classical music, that has been utilized completely in its purity in many songs in Hindi film music.
Okay, you feel that?
I feel that simply because that's a sound that
which is more native to us.
Which is more native to us.
Okay.
So like if you look at without the instrumentation, if you look at Kora Kagaz Tha Ye Man Mera, it's Pahadi.
Right.
And the song is pretty true to the rag. It's not there's no.
But then pretty true is a tricky statement.
It's a tricky statement. Yeah.
That's why I would always be careful.
Okay. So that's why I feel that when I was asking you, when people say that, like you said, the song is a jazz, like it's wow, he's explored blues in this song, or it's jazz in this song. That's not really possible within a.
No, see, exploring is very much possible.
Right.
Elements are very much possible. But to claim, I said that you can't really claim it. I mean, a lot of people, for example, when we ask the rag of Tumiho, a lot of people say it's Kirwani and it's got that element to it. But then I would, as the composer of that song, I would not make that flawless claim.
Right.
I would always pay my respects to the science of our music and say that this is what I have done. I don't know where it fits in, but I give my respect to the system and I do not make any comment.
So when someone says that a song is in this particular rag, you just mentioned Kirwani. Let's take Kirwani.
Ji.
Is it sometimes that the composer has intentionally said, okay, I am going to use the Arohan and the Avrohan of this particular Kirwani and make the song? Or does it happen that the song is an instinctive creation
Ji.
with feeling, that
Ji.
word you used,
Ji.
and sometimes that instinct has led that composer towards those notes, and therefore retroactively we are calling it, hey, listen, that song is Kirwani.
I mean, I think it's a very personal thing as an artist, sir. I feel if the artist has the complete information of the structure of the raga,
Right.
जैसे आपने आरो अवरो का बताया, if that is in place and if the artist is making that claim, I think it's something to learn and it's very inspiring. This topic for us, you and me, started from conversation, where I
Right.
feel ki I am a conversationalist,
Right.
and I would maintain that element in my music. Like when we spoke about Kirwani, for example, the Nishad in Tumiyo, I have the Shuddha Nishad and the Komal Nishad both, depending on the line. So the Kirwani has a different Nishad. Then at one point it's the Darbari wala ni. But then it's definitely not Darbari because it doesn't have the chalat of Darbari at all. So that's why I feel that we should have a lot of reverence for our Anushasan and just be careful before commenting.
So has there been a song that Mithoon has composed saying that I'm going to compose this in this particular rag?
Nahi.
Never.
I've always been...
Never in all these years.
Maybe I had an idea in mind.
Ah.
I had a particular idea in mind. But that would be more internal. For me to put it out as a statement, even before starting to work, would be too strong a claim to make. I would definitely feel ki maybe I should, this particular emotion that Saeed Qadri has written, this does give me the feeling of Bhairav, and I could be inspired to go in that direction. But then once I am on the piano, then I will be more honest to what I'm feeling at that point of time. Where क्या वो राग से बाहर जा रहा है, I would not think about
You're
that.
not thinking, yeah.
I would go.
Yeah.
As a film composer, my priorities lie there.
Right. It's more towards doing justice to the
emotion.
The emotion, right?
Ji.
Tell me about, like you spoke about the lyricist for Border.
Ji.
Now, at what point do they come in these days? Because in the older times, again, there were times, sometimes the tune would be composed and then the lyrics would be filled in. There are other times where the lyrics would come first and then the tune would be made for that.
Yeah.
How did it happen for Border 2?
So for Border 2, for example, Mitti Ke Bete, if I speak, the brief was so strong of at the end of a war. Mm-hmm. In Border 1, we had a great song called Mere Dushman Mere Bhai. And
Hariharan sang.
Hariharan sir had sung the song. And I feel that when that situation came up, the brief was so powerful that Manoj Muntashir ji, he came up with these words when he wrote कि क्या मनमौजी बेफिक्रे थे, मौत पे अपनी हंसते थे, दिल में वतन को रखने वाले सर पे कफन भी रखते थे. So when something so powerful comes out, sir, you cannot run away from it. You have to embrace it. And I didn't want to change even one akshar of these words. Neither me, neither my director. So I had to stick to that meter and I had to come up with the melody of Mitti Bete the way it was written.
What about the phrase Mitti Ke Bete itself? Did that come?
That came first. Manoj ji wrote these 4 lines. Then he wrote, जब हम तिरंगा लहराएंगे, हिचकी बनके. Even this is such a beautiful expression. Hichki banke is a very common expression in our country. And then he said, वो मिट्टी के बेटे जो वापस ना लौटे, वो बाके अलबेले जो वापस ना लौटे. And I obviously had my own flow to it and we put it all in perspective. But when something so powerful comes, then the composer in you really gets inspired to go in that flow.
Yeah. What about this balance between natural instruments and like bringing in technology, right? Like, because now we can produce the sound of instruments without necessarily having the natural, without having a player.
You mean programming?
Programming.
Haan ji.
So
That's quite an old concept. I mean,
yeah. But I'm saying now it's become even like
It's very rampant.
It's very rampant,
Yes,
right?
sir.
What is the balance that do you try to say that? Do you have any rules about that? In the sense that, I would like to use natural instruments as much as possible, or that's not a consideration at all.
So in the beginning of my career, so when I started off, and with the place I was in my career at that point of time, I was more leaning towards programmed music, and my soundscapes were very textural back then. You spoke about Tose Nana Lage, so I've used like the water textures in the intro of the song. I've used like a harp, which a programmed harp is very much the tonally it's very close to a live harp. So I would feel this is working for the song, and keys I would play myself, and pads I would do. At the most, we would record a live bass, or maybe a solo violin needed. So I was enjoying that at that point of time. Right now, I'm in a phase where I'm really enjoying recording acoustic instruments a lot. I've used more than 150 instruments on the soundtrack of Border 2, and also with the kind of budget that I can command today, and with the producers backing me on that, I've used more than 60 choir members on the Border 2 soundtrack. Many of them who were part of the part 1 or have sung for me in part 2 as well. So right now I'm in a phase where I'm really exploring. As you said, so there's no rule as such.
Yeah.
The moral element is a different conversation, where it is people's
I'm
life.
just curious how you do it. Yeah. So,
but creatively, sometimes you could take a patch of a sample, and you could create magic with programming as well. And it could just do wonders for the song. So creatively, there's no binding to it. But right now, I feel I'm in that space where I'm really enjoying. I recorded the Bulbul Tang for Mitti Ke Bete, which banjo bhi usko bolte hai. So, in fact, when I performed at the YNS Vikrant, if you see the video, you will see the gentleman, Mr. Kishore Mohite, actually on stage and playing the instrument with me. On Sarangi, Dilshad Khan Saab was there. And I'm just in a phase right now where I'm really enjoying unlearning and going back to the acoustic phase.
Nice. Yeah. So that's kind of giving
if you see my Insta, you'll see my rehearsal with the trombone, with trumpets. I recorded 6 sitars on Aaj Aate Hue Lamho.
Right.
So I'm really enjoying that phase right now.
Like, how is this different? I mean, from a musician point of view,
Yeah.
How is it because you're getting to interact with live performers? Is that something that
also, yes, I feel human interaction really enriches your perspective as a musician. But primarily is the expression is very different. For the lack of a better word, the human interpretation of a phrase, by the time I play it on a key, and when it's played back to me, there will always be some kind of transition. I worked with Mr. Bhagirath Bhatt on the sitar. When I would play him a phrase from the piano, and how he would play it back to me, there will always be some poetic difference.
Right.
And that difference, but sometimes he could add something, he would add an extra gamak, or a tarap would come in somewhere. I feel that just makes it so alive.
Yeah. But are you a perfectionist?
I would not define myself. Perfection is a word which anyways really intimidates me.
Okay.
So I would not define myself with that. I would definitely say that I'm very clear, sir, about the way I see my music. I'm very rarely confused about how I see a song, how I hear it, about the length of my songs. Sunday se aate hai is 10.5 minutes, and I've kept my audio master. Yeah. Even 2 days before the release, my director asked me, Mithoon, audio kaatna hai kya? Film mein to the song is edited, but audio also if you want to cut. But I was like, no sir, I like the way I am confident of my journeys. My second interlude is Sarangi. My third interlude is the Persian Sarod. My fourth interlude is bass, flute and strings. So I was very confident I want to keep it this way, and then my producers, Bhushan Kumar, completely backed me. So I just kept it.
So when I said perfectionist, what I meant was, you envision a song or a soundscape, you know, like this is how I want to sound.
Yeah.
You're using a live musician. Let's say for the first interlude, you're playing like on the piano, you're playing the passage of the interlude
Yeah.
that you want this trumpeter
Yeah.
to replicate, right?
Fair enough.
The trumpeter either makes a mistake or does an improvised version of what you've done it.
Yeah.
Does your mind sometimes go, hey, you know what, that sounds better, let's use that?
For sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Right. So you're not going to say,
Nahin.
no, that was not what I
Nahin,
wanted. Okay.
I'm very impulsive and very faithful to the moment. There could something really come up which is better than what I envisioned, and I'm very open to that.
Right. So that collaborative is almost like jamming, right?
100%.
Yeah.
But my basic writing is always ready.
Right.
I always go with a score to the studio.
I mean, when you say score, you mean prelude, the mukhra, the interlude, antara,
the obligatos as well.
Okay, everything.
So if you listen to Sande Se Aate, if you listen to the fourth antara, the most popular Hai Guzarne Wali antara, you will listen to a choir contra line which is not there in the original.
Right.
I would really encourage your listeners to go and listen to it and comment if they liked it or they didn't like it.
Right. You know, my favorite song from Border, musically, composition-wise, though not impactfully, because Sande Se Aate is obviously the song that everybody, embraces because it's showed in such a powerful manner on screen. But compositionally speaking, I love Hame Jab Se Mohabbat Ho Gayi Hai.
Ji.
That's a beautiful song. And Sonu Nigam goes into that, मैं खेतों में पगडंडियों पर तुम्हारा हाथ थाम के really high चल रहा हूँ and all that. It's so emotional.
It is.
What was your thought when you redid that song?
For me, it was, I wanted to retain the chorus line of the song. The way
Mahi Mahi, that one?
No. In fact, I haven't used the Mahi Mahi. I created another outro to the song. I wanted to use, when I say chorus line, the Hame Jab Se part.
Okay.
I wanted to use it the way it is. With the Tivra Madhyam and that beautiful slide that is there for mean and all. I wanted to keep it that way. But I wanted to land there. I felt that till I don't land there.
Land matlab? I mean, like land as in?
Emotionally land there, sir. That's why I created a part before.
Okay.
If you listen to my interpretation.
Oh, to start there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to land there as a feeling, before which I wanted, because I feel that part has a certain amount of delicacy to it.
Mm-hmm.
It has a certain amount of silence to it, and it has a fall. But before that fall, I wanted the rise. And that's why I created a part which Sonoji only has sung, which goes really high. If I'm not wrong, it goes to the Rekhap on top. And then it comes and falls over here. And then I feel Hame Jab Se lands even more beautifully, giving it full respect and celebrating that part even more.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. I hope the listeners feel the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's just a beautiful song. So, if somebody asks you to pick a list of 5 favorite songs that you have composed, would that even be possible? But
I would ask you.
Okay.
I would tell you that you tell me 5 your favorites.
We'll do that later, but you tell me.
I can't choose my favorites. But
this song is, you said The Train, because for instance, The Train is something that it's your first full-fledged solo album. So there's a sentimental value to it.
There is.
But I'm talking about musical value.
I'm really happy with Tose Nana Lage. Dil Sambhal Ja Zara Phir Mohabbat Karne Chala Hai Tu. Eh Khuda from the same soundtrack. That's another. I'm very fond, very attached to that melody. I would say.
When a musician says, I'm very attached to a melody, what does that mean?
It means that it came from a place that I was really itching to express at that point of time.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because at that point of time, that genre wasn't very much celebrated. There were a lot of dance music happening in Indian films. And in the middle of that, to have a song with that, and again, Bhatt Saab, Mukesh ji, my director Mohit, really backed me on that one as well. I would also say Banjara from Ek Villain. I would say Main Phir Bhi Tumko Chahunga, which was a nazam. Uski writing was written like a nazam, and I composed the entire song on the nazam. Kabir Singh, Tujhe Kitna. I'm very happy with the way that song finally turned out. And now I would say Mitti Ke Bete.
But are you able to be objective with your songs? Because you lived with them for so long, you've composed them. Uh, Immediately, are you able to be objective with it? Because I'll give you an example of filmmakers. They say that when they start writing, and by the time the shooting happens and the editing happens, and by the time the movie, all the other things happen, and the movie is ready to go out, they just see pixels because the what they don't see the whole movie anymore. It's so familiar to them that it's all just bits and pieces, and it sometimes takes a while for them to actually see the movie as a whole again.
Yeah.
So again, when you are looking at a song at such a microscopic level, when the song comes out, are you immediately able to say, be objective about the song?
I mean, I think once the song comes out is where I disconnect. I completely disconnect.
Okay.
Then the song it belongs to the people, doesn't belong to me anymore.
So all these songs that you mentioned, that they were like songs that you sing. Now these are all songs that you had the time to process and say, oh, you know what? Now when I listen to the song again, it still does it for me.
Or maybe the memories I have while I was writing the songs.
Okay.
That could also be a very strong factor. Yeah.
Right. Now, when we talked something about history, when you one of the things that I noticed in in Mumbai is that when they say retro, the history usually stops with RD, and Panchamda was definitely 60s onwards, like 62, 63 onwards. He's there, but a bulk of his popular things are from the Rishi Kapoor, that phase, right? The 70s and all that, right?
Yeah.
It's from the bulk of it. I'm talking about the songs that people talk about. Somehow, I feel that there's a generation now that doesn't know that there were composers even before, and I worship RD, okay? Like, he's one of my gods. I'm not even, I love RD. But what I'm trying to say is that there are many others. And what do we do to kind of steer people back to those others and make them? I'm not saying you have to like it, but I'm saying, are those songs gone? Are they only destined to be listened by music lovers and by older generation people? What is the...
I feel there are two perspectives to this. One is this, definitely, that as a generation we should encourage the people under our authority. Like my dad, even when I wasn't in the mood for it, like after my homework, he would tell me, give half an hour, and he would make me listen to Madan Mohan. And I would, as a 12-year-old, I wasn't really relating to Madan Mohan Saab at that point of time. But it's created a sense of melody in me. It created a sense of discipline in me. A sense of Therav probably came from there. So I feel it's our job to inculcate that in the next generation. But there is another point of view also, is that प्यासे को पानी के पास जाना पड़ेगा.
Yeah.
The youngsters today, they have access to all the information in the world. I mean, if they really can go and find out so many things on various other topics, they should also go and research on our history. As you rightly said, Panchamda, before Panchamda, Naushad Saab, the information is all there. C. Ramchandra, the information is all there. Husan Lal Bhagat Ram, the information is all there.
Khemchand Prakash.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so I mean, जिसके लिए valuable है, for whom this is really wealth, what's stopping you from going back and listening to them?
Listening to it. Yeah. But somehow, I'm a little pessimistic about this. I feel that some songs are just gone. Because, for example, certain voices, they no longer appeal to people. Certain types of song constructions no longer appeal to people. Certain kinds of beats. So I think we are going to live with the fact that the latter thing that you said, that Pyase ko, that the fact that it's going to be a bunch of music lovers that are going to keep these songs alive. But with the majority, probably, But
then maybe that's when composers can play a very, very important role, where they can, as part of the responsibility, revisit, grasp from history and bring it back in context. And I'm not talking about recreations, I'm talking about maybe the ideology, maybe the progression mindset, maybe the use of an instrument, they could bring it back in some way and connect people, make it relevant for people, and take them back to their roots.
Like you mentioned Madan Mohan, right? It's there's that Haste Zakham, which is a gorgeous album, and
Yeah.
there's that Tum Jo Mil Gaye Ho.
Yeah.
When I was a kid and it used to play, I used to get bored out of my wits because it doesn't have a proper, like there's no percussion in that.
There's no pulse to hold on
Pulse to hold on to. So it used to be some floating melody, and it used to really bore me to kind of thing. And especially when you're listening to Pancham at that time, right? So it took me a while to get to kind of understand the beauty of that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so sometimes, but today I sometimes feel that people don't have the time. If a song doesn't register like 1, 2, 3 listens, there's so much available
Ji.
that it's easier to move on. So that I feel that might also be a factor because we're just getting so much. There's like we talked about the democracy of singers earlier. Now there's also indie songs happening at a much bigger level than they used to earlier. Earlier there was like some one Baba Sehgal, one Alicia Chinay, very, very pioneers who kind of were struggling to, push people away from Bollywood and say, look, there's this other kind of music.
Yeah.
But now there's so much of that happening. In fact, so maybe that's, what are your favorite Madan Mohan songs? Some of them.
I would say Lag Ja Gale.
Okay.
I would say Naina Barse.
Okay.
I would say Na Hum Bewafa, Na Wo Bewafa. Dil Dhoondta Hai. They've got 2 compositions on the same poetry.
Yeah. I read somewhere that Phir Se from Lal Singh Chadda is one of your favorite songs.
Phir Na Aisi Raat
Phir Na
Aayi.
Aisi Raat. Yeah. Well, what is the thing about that
I
song?
think it's just the silence. Maybe that's why I connect to it. It's got so much of silence.
Right.
The silence of the night. No? I think Arijit, Pritam and Amitabh Bhattacharya, they've peaked in that song.
Okay. Because before I read that, because it was one of the songs that I think went under the radar.
Yeah.
And I listened to it again, and it is a gorgeous song.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Chalo.
It's like a beautiful song.
I'm glad I could connect you with a great song.
Yeah, that's some of the things that you should say. And one of the reasons I also keep asking composers about, even when I spoke to Shilpa Rao, we were speaking outside of syllabus, so to speak, because, hopefully few people will listen to some of the songs that she's mentioning and kind of go on to kind
It's
of...
necessary.
It's necessary.
important.
So what are some of the upcoming projects that you are excited about?
So, I've just started collaborating with my all-time friend Mohit Suri. Something that doing with him. I'm doing another film.
You mean his next film?
His next film,
Okay.
yeah. So there's another intense story that he's working on. And
Mohit Suri is intense. I think that much you don't have to, yeah.
But he likes me getting involved on the writing stage.
Yeah.
And we try and explore various thoughts before we come to, what point do we want to basically take the melody forward. Before that,
Right.
we do that. And apart from that, I'm doing the music for Avarapan 2, which is again me going back to my roots because I started my career with Vishesh Films and Mukesh Bhatt.
Yeah.
So that's again a very interesting soundscape that I'm looking forward to. I'm again doing something with Bhushan Kumar after Border 2. So the idea is now that I want to focus on my film work for this year, and anything else maybe a little later.
What is anything else?
I mean, the thing is, a lot of people have been asking me about the non-film genre and doing something independently. Since you said I'm getting a lot of offers, but I still don't have the right reason to do something in that space.
Okay.
So the day I find that reason, I'll definitely do it.
What could be a reason? I'm just curious.
A reason could be a longing or a yearning to express a thought which doesn't go into any of my films, and I want to put this song out there.
Okay.
But what happens is with the kind of body of work I have, a lot of people come with these proposals, and they put it together on the table. I think that just kind of doesn't work for me.
Okay. How do these things come to when do they say, let's put together a collection of romantic songs or something as generic as that?
Yeah, romantic is a very, I think it's an abused word.
A very generic word.
It's a very generic word.
Yeah.
I don't even see my music as romantic.
Okay.
I don't hear my music as romantic.
Okay. You see these as conversations. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you, sir.
It was a pleasure talking to you, and
Same here. Same here.
all the very best. I'm happy Border 2 is such a success.
Thank
and
you.
that you brought back, we just spoke of bringing back some songs to a newer generation.
Yeah.
And you've been instrumental in bringing back.
But I honestly don't see the recreations as that, because that would be a very nice moral covering for that. That's not my intention.
No. I'm not saying that's what it is.
Right.
But through this, hopefully, some
I would
people
encourage them to go back to the original and listen to the soundtrack of Border 1 that was created by Anu Malik ji and Javed Akhtar Saab.
Yeah.
Because these recreations were done for this film with a creative purpose.
Yeah.
But the father will always be those songs. So please go back and listen to those.
See, I don't, I get the feeling that you're justifying this, but I don't think there's any, because see, anything to do with films, right, is a mix of art and commerce.
Right.
There is a commercial reason for wanting Sandeh Se Aate Hain in
Right.
Border.
Right.
Because it is so associated with
Right.
it. It's like, you can't make a Star Wars movie
Right.
without John Williams' theme. Even though today somebody else may be composing,
But they use the theme.
But they use the theme.
They use the
They may
theme.
reuse it in various ways,
Yes,
but that's the same.
Just like I think Ken Thorne used John Williams' theme in Superman as well.
Yeah. So, some things are so iconic that you don't want to mess with it. So so I think you're fine. So, thank you so much.
I would love it that in Border 3, Mitti Ke Bete is used. And I'll be very open if somebody else recreates that song.
Does that. Wonderful. Let's hope that happens. Fingers crossed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mritu towels from Ramraj, premium cotton and bamboo towels. Super soft, super absorbent.
Let's go holiday. Travel beyond boundaries.
உங்கள் தங்க நகையை விற்று உடனடி பணம் பெற மேக்ஸ் கோல்ட் கால் 04445454545